All right, welcome back to the channel. Another interview today. Another one of my teammates here at Minnesota Distance Elite. Pumped to have Adam Swanson, aka SWANNY, on the channel. Not his first time on the channel, won't be his last. Swanny's an Illinois native, ran at the Division I level at Eastern Illinois University down in Charleston, Illinois. He's got an impressive range. He's got a great 800 PR of 147 right now. Going to talk about a wide range of stuff. Got some good stuff to talk about. All right, Swanny, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, yeah, this one, this is gonna be good. So, obviously, like we do with everybody, and like I told you, let's just jump into it. How'd you get into running?
Yeah, I got into running. I think growing up, my parents just wanted to put me into some sports because, as an average kid, your parents want you to get out of the house. They don't want you just, playing video games all day. So I played t-ball. I did some soccer stuff. I did swimming, football, and then I always enjoyed the punishment part of some of those sports in terms of, in football, if you didn't do your job right, it's like, all right, you're going to go run. Or I played basketball as well growing up in middle school. So it's like, all right, go do these suicide runs. And everyone really hated those. And I was just, I'm not saying I loved them, but I was always better at the running part of the punishment. And yeah, it just kind of, I guess it molded together throughout like early on where I'm like, wow, I'm pretty good at running. So then that's kind of what got me into running, and then I joined the track team in middle school as well, and then eventually high school and etc. But yeah, so I'd say just kind of, I guess my progression with sports and like kind of figuring out that I was pretty good at running compared to the other people that were on my team, it kind of made me realize like, oh, I should try running track in middle school and high school. So that's what put me into running.
All right, nice. And then did you exclusively run in high school, or did you do any other sports?
Yeah, so in high school, I played football in middle school up until my freshman year, and that's when I just did track. And I was actually a sprinter my freshman and sophomore year of high school. I did like the 200 and 400. And then, yeah, so it was exclusively just track after that freshman year. And then junior year, I think there was a day where, it was sophomore year actually, where I was late to practice a few times. So then the distance coach wasn't tolerant in that anymore, so he told me I had to run a mile at some meet as like a punishment. And this kind of goes back to the other part I was saying with the punishments and realizing I was good at running. So I had to run a mile with the distance guys, and everyone was making fun of me because I was late to practice a lot. And I actually ran a 4:35 mile with no distance training under my belt, just, showing up to practice, doing dynamics, doing some sprint stuff. And they were all like, wow. And I think I was our second best guy when I did that. So then after that, it was pretty cool because they were all like, man, this guy just did a 4:35. Like, he's not really a 200 guy anymore. I mean, my 200 was like 25 seconds at the time, which isn't anything great, maybe 24. And then I was pretty good at the 400. I was doing like 51 at the time or 52. But then since then, it was like, they were like, hey, you need to come out for distance. We need you on the cross country team too. And I wasn't even doing cross country. So that's when junior year happened. Then I did cross country and track. So that's when I started running like exclusively cross country and track. So then I was all out and running those last few years.
Okay, sweet. Punishment turned into some success on the grass, which we'll talk about.
It's like that quote, like, our sport is your sport's punishment, and it's just turned into some good things.
Turned into a lot more than you probably would ever imagined, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So what were your high school PRs?
So my high school PRs, I ran 156 in the 800. My 400 was 51 seconds. I think on my athletic net, my mile's like 4:43, which isn't anything spectacular at all. And then in cross country, we do 3 mile in Illinois. I think most states do 5K, but we just did 3 mile. I ran 15 flat, which I was kind of upset I couldn't just run a second faster to break that 15-minute barrier. But yeah, so I had a nice 3 mile PR, and then 800, 400, and then a kind of not so good mile, and then that's all I had on my athletic net pretty much.
Okay, yeah. So at what point? Because you ran in college, obviously. At what point did that become something you thought about, and then was there a point where it kind of seemed more like a reality that you would get to do that?
Yeah, I think my junior and senior year of high school, we went to state in the 4x8, and we were seated like 10th or something like that in 3A. And 3A, if you're from Illinois, that's the division with the most students at your school, so the competition's usually heavier there. And yeah, we did a 4x8, and we ended up getting third at state, so we blew out our expectations. I was the anchor leg. I was going against like Dylan Jacobs and some top guys there. It was pretty cool. And I split a 154 on that leg, and I brought us from 8th place to 3rd in the state finals. So that, like, when I did that, my coaches then on were like, "You just did that," and it was just really cool. And I realized, I'm like, man, I really just did that. Like, maybe I could do that in the open, which I couldn't do that in the open, but it made me realize I've got a lot more there with the training I was doing. And, it started to really hit me like, wow, like that was really fun. Like the adrenaline of that race and just like being one of the top in the state. And, with how good I am, I wasn't anything crazy. I wasn't making nationals or anything at the high school level, but I was one of the better ones in the state, I guess you could say. So it just really made me think like, I want to keep doing this, and then, obviously you have talks of going to college with your parents and trying to figure out where you want to go to school. Toward the end of high school, you're trying to figure all that out. And I'm like, well, I want to get a scholarship. And I was able to, reach out to a few schools. And unfortunately, I couldn't get any money. I wasn't the greatest in terms of the student athlete part, so I just had to get some of my grades up. So I wasn't able to get any money. But yeah, so I ended up being a college walk-on. But that's kind of what propelled me from high school to wanting to run in college, is the scholarship part and the fact that I'm like, man, this is fun, and I feel like there's a lot more in the tank for me.
Okay, yeah, good stuff. Yeah, that's exciting. Eighth place rank or 10th, whatever you said, and then up to third. I mean, third
Yeah.
place is no joke in Illinois, so obviously some good teams there. Yeah, so you went to Eastern Illinois. What went into that decision, and was there any other schools? I know you didn't have a ton of options, but were there any other schools that you were giving some serious thought to?
Yeah, so I think with EIU being the first one on my radar, obviously the Illinois State meet is at EIU in Charleston, Illinois, so I feel like that's a big thing for them in terms of recruiting, because you go run on that track and you're just a high school kid, and when you get to a stage like that, like in the state championship, you're like, man, look at all these people in the bleachers. There's thousands of people here, the big blue track. It's just, the environment's so awesome, and just running on that track just felt so cool. So I knew that was one of the options that I had to go with, and plus being 3.5 hours from home, I'm like, it's not too far at all.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing at all. So I figured, you could do that day trip real quick if you wanted to, crash at the house for a day or two, come back, like whatever you wanted, But so that was a big decision for me in terms of wanting to have a college that was somewhat close to home. So reached out to them. And then I also looked at Grand Valley State University. I emailed Coach Baltz there, and we exchanged a few emails, but that was about it. I looked at Southern Illinois Carbondale. I did a visit there and everything. It was pretty cool there. And then I went to UIC for a visit, which is University of Illinois at Chicago, downtown. And that was cool as well. But after kind of gathering my thoughts and all that, I figured, EIU was definitely the best fit for me in terms of after meeting the personnel and the coaching and just what it had to offer for me.
Yeah, good stuff. Some solid options there, and obviously everything worked out for you at EIU. Yeah, 3.5 hours. That's nothing. You go Friday after practice, you could go home.
Right.
And don't even get home late. I know how that goes.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's exciting. So yeah, you had a lot of success there at EIU. End up setting the Texas relay record and going to nationals and All-American. What went into that? I mean, because you weren't a bad high school runner, but on paper probably wouldn't think that you would run 147 and go to nationals and do some of the stuff you did. So what kind of went into that to make that big jump?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was definitely the training aspect of it, in terms of in high school, you're just, you're meeting up. It almost feels like a club run, like go do your 4 miles. There wasn't much structure. It'd be like, all right, we're doing 4 miles a day. See you at practice tomorrow. 4 miles tomorrow. And then it's like our so-called long run. You got 5.5, 6 miles. Like there was just a lot of repetitive stuff. There wasn't really much structure to it. So I think once I went to college, there was more structure. I didn't know what a tempo run meant until I got to college. I didn't know what a long run was really. I mean, I knew a long run was just a longer run than your easy runs, but I didn't really know like the different structure of like there's an easy run, medium run, long run, fartlek runs, tempo runs. I didn't know any of that stuff. So I think just going to college and having that leadership that Coach Aaron Howarth, who coached me at IU, gave me, just really helped me stay consistent and improve a lot more. And I also think a big thing too is just having like a really good mindset. I think, where I went to school, it's kind of frowned upon if you're like really good at athletics, I guess you could say. It's just kind of in an area where not many people are that great at the sport there. Not sure why, at their sports, I mean. And yeah, I mean, a lot of the schools in our conference in high school were beating up on us, and just no one really cared about our school much. And they didn't really look at us as contenders for anything, or didn't look at us as like, oh, they have a good program with this or that, or none of that stuff. So I think that just like always kind of kept us humble in terms of like mentality wise. And I was so used to going to these like high school meets too, and I'd go to local meets and do really good, but then you get to the bigger meets and there's guys like a lot better than you. And I remember at the conference or the King County meet, like you had like Batavia High School or like Neuqua Valley, Naperville, or like Downers Grove North. Like they were always beating up on us. And I mean, they weren't in our county championship, but Neuqua Valley or Batavia was. But some of those other schools, we'd see them a few times. But so definitely having that mindset, and I think kind of going to college too, the mindset kind of stayed the same, because coming into college, you weren't that top guy right away by any means. Kind of like how you were in high school, you're kind of at the bottom of the I guess you could say, when you look at it, it's like a fish bowl, and you might be a bigger fish in that bowl in high school. But then once you get to college, you're at the bottom of that fishbowl, I guess you could say, or like a smaller fish, and then you got all these other big people around you. You're a little minnow, and you got these big bass everywhere. So that's one way to put it. So I think just like it helped you stay humble, and like it just like mentality wise, it kept you wanting to like work for more and just get better because of the people around you and because of the competition, especially at the Division I level. So I think that was definitely a big thing in terms of my jump. Towards that, 147 and all my other times that I've produced.
Yeah, humble beginnings, and keeping that humble mindset, and excuse me, good support system. We can never put enough emphasis on having a good support system and having coaches and teammates that believe in you. So still talking about EIU, I mean, obviously you ran cross country in college, but being more of like that 800 miler guy, you had some pretty good cross country races in college, in 2023, your last cross country season, you got 29th at the Midwest region, and that's one of the harder regions for cross country. I mean, depending on the year, you can maybe argue it is the hardest, but no doubt it's one of the toughest regions in D1. So, and you're just an 800 guy out here getting 29th. So what was kind of your mindset with cross country? Because there's a lot of mid-D guys that want nothing to do with cross country. So what's kind of been your mindset with that in college?
Yeah, I think kind of like you said, a lot of those mid-distance guys don't really do cross-country. I know a lot of them hate it. It's almost like a sprinter getting put in the 4x4. Like, I'm not doing that, coach, But I think for me, my coach always told me I have really good strength. I think if I wanted to, I could always work up and go do a 5K or go focus on cross-country. And I think the main reason as well was when I started off at EIU, some of my teammates – I had Jamie Marcos and Dustin Hatfield. They were definitely guys to look up to, and those guys really led the way in terms of long distance. We had a really good squad my freshman and sophomore year. I think there was like 8 of us breaking 25 for 8K, and then we probably had we had 3 or 4 guys like 24:10 or faster when I was a freshman or sophomore, which is really good, especially for a mid-major D1. And I think there was one year we got like 6th or 7th at the regional meet for cross country, which is really insane for a school like us. But I think the fact that we had that team put together, because in cross country they're scoring the top 5, and there'd be some days where it's like maybe our 4th and 5th guy weren't always on par with our top guys, and they might fall back into the 7th or 8th guy. So I think my coach just training me as a longer distance runner, she wanted that consistency in terms of she believed in me and thought I had really good strength from what she saw in workouts. So she wanted me to be part of that top 5, which I pretty much was. I think freshman year I was kind of 5th or 6th, and then after that I was cementing myself into that top 5 usually pretty consistently. Then obviously senior year I was the top guy and won cross conference, which was really awesome. So I think the fact that the way my coach looked at it with our program and how we built the team together, it was a really strength and like long distance focus, I guess you could say. And the fact that I had natural foot speed, I think kind of translated into track. And she's like, all right, we'll do the 800 now, but we're still going to keep this, pretty high mileage for an 800 guy. And You could do the 800. If we need you for the 3K for points, we're going to do that, because I did have to do that. And, another thing with doing a lot of high mileage, you're able to really double back from events, and it shouldn't feel too hard. I mean, there's some guys where you run one event, and if they have to run an hour later, they just completely fumble the bag. But for me, I was doing, I remember it was most years I would do the 800 prelims and 1500 prelims, and then I'd go or the mile prelims, for indoor. And then the next day it'd be like, I'd have 2 or 3 of the finals, and then that last day I would have another race. So I was doing like the 800, the mile, 3K, DMR, or 4x4, all at conference, all within 2-3 days. And then there's prelims. So I'm running 6 or 7 times. I couldn't even tell you how many ibuprofens I was popping, and just to get the inflammation down and just like lock in mentally, because I was trying to do a lot for the team to get points. But I think just being able to handle like higher mileage and be trained as like a longer distance person, like you're able to sustain, or what I'm trying to say is you're able to be more efficient in terms of doubling back, tripling back, whatever you have to do. So it's kind of always been a thing for me where my coach thought it was necessary that I would do the higher mileage and race cross as well, because she saw that I had natural foot speed to do the 800, but I also had really good range in terms of like if I wanted to make this guy run a 5K or 10K, like I could train him to do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of good mid-D guys that run cross. You may not even know it. I mean, you look at some of the top guys in the world right now. Cole Hawker, he ran cross country. Yard Nagoose ran cross country. Josh Kerr ran cross country. A lot of people may not know that, but I've seen his name in results, and it wasn't necessarily pretty, but I mean, look at him. And the list goes on and on, but like they do cross country. So yeah, that's good. Yeah, so I want to briefly, just real quick, talk about why you're kind of into college and coming to MDE, and then get us some more broad stuff. So yeah, when did you realize you wanted to run post college? Was there a point? Was that something you always wanted to do, or is it kind of become a realization later on when you started hitting some pretty quick times?
Yeah, it was never a realization at all until that Texas Relays race where I did run 147, because once I ran that, it was a 2-second PR from the week before where I ran 149 at Southern Illinois Carbondale. But when I ran that, I was like, man, like, I mean, this ain't world class by any means, but this is up there with like some of those elite guys. Like, this could get me up there with some of those pro guys, not the top guys, but it could definitely get me up there. And ever since then, like, I talked to my coach about it, and we would always, be looking at professional athletes, and we would always talk about the results. I'd always go to her office, and, we would just be talking. And, Coach Danny Mackey, who coaches the Brixby's, he's an alumni of VIU, so we'd always talk about him and how his athletes are doing. And, while that's a really good team, we always kind of made a joke like, oh, it'd be cool to run for them, but, I'd probably have to go 145 or faster to run for them. But so then, yeah, we would just kind of have, some small conversations. And then, I made nationals that year, and then, while I didn't improve on my 800 PR throughout my next few years, I was able to, garnish some more, really good achievements and some more, conference champion honors and all that stuff. So I think it kind of, peaked its way in when I ran that 147 and made nationals, because I was a sophomore, but with freshman year eligibility. So that's when I did that. So then I kind of assumed like I'm going to keep improving, which, I didn't improve on my 800 PR, but like I said, I improved in terms of some other events and collecting more championships from conference and making some regional meets. So I think it set in when I ran that. And then as soon as I was about to graduate, I started, messaging and reaching out to teams. And, I reached out to some people. Obviously, Titus here was on the team, so I reached out to him. He was great help for me. And I was able to get on the team, and I was, really happy. I felt like I had more in the tank as well. Kind of, looking back from high school with the low mileage going into college, I get to college, I wasn't weightlifting at all, actually. And, I had really good training, but I felt like there was some stuff I could be doing at another level where maybe there's more potential and more in the tank. So that's why I kind of chose to keep running and pursuing this post-collegiately.
Okay, good stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I remember you DMing me, and I was like, I had to look. You mentioned we raced. I had to look you up, and then I remember seeing you, and you raced some Southern Indiana guys. Obviously, now that they're in the OVC, so obviously I still follow them, given that I ran there. So yeah. Good stuff. Yeah, definitely still some always areas. We were messaging about that the other day when you had a race you didn't particularly want. It's like, man, there's always something to learn, something to work on, and so that's the beauty of our sport. Even when you're out of college and even when you're fast. It's like there's always something. And yeah, definitely good resources here to help us dial some of those things in. And I know you've been taking advantage of a lot of the resources that we have, and the facilities we have access to. So that's awesome. So yeah, like I said, let's kind of just talk about some broader stuff. And one thing, I kind of want to talk about maybe your mindset with training. And one thing, because I've talked with the guys about this, and some guys I know from the OVC, you know, Josh Grogan. People have been watching the channel, they know who Josh Grogan is. Good friends, him and Wes, good friends of me and my family, and ran with them a lot. Talked to them, and because they mentioned like, oh, Adam Swanson, like coming to MDE, and then talked to some USI guys up in Boston earlier this year, and they kind of laugh. It's like, oh, Adam Swanson, and he's kind of this guy SWANNY that we laugh about. But I tell him, like, look, you kind of a goofball at times. You like to have fun, but I'm tell these guys, I'm like, come workouts, this guy, like, he locks in and gets it done. Like when that workout starts, like, there's no horsing around, there's no cutting up. Like, how do you balance that? Because there's people that can't balance that. They want to goof off 24/7. Like, so what's kind of your mindset with that? Like, having fun, but then also, like, when it comes time to, like, work out, when it comes time to lift, when it comes time to race, like, you lock in and you're all in, ready to go. So kind of how do you balance that? Being like this, like, guy that likes to have fun and being real laid back, but then turning that switch pretty hardcore for the workouts and stuff. How do you do that?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in you get what you put into something. So, you know, I think daily life, you know, outside of training, it's good to be yourself. It's good to laugh and mess around, just living your life in the moment. But, you know, once you get to practice, especially a workout on the track, you know, it's not, you know, maybe you could crack a few jokes here and there during your dynamics, but once that workout starts, it's almost like kind of the guns going off in a race. Like, there's not really any horsing around. You got to lock in. You got to remember that you're there to put in the work and get better. You know, the jokes can wait. You know, once you get on that track, it's like, all right, let me put this to the side and I'll come back to this when I'm done with the workout, because, you know, that's what's getting you better. So, you know, if you're messing around and horsing around, you know, it could, whether it has an effect on you or not, I think it's just good, you know, not just professionally, but, you know, mentally, to just stay locked in terms of, like I said, you get what you put in. And if you want to go have a good workout, you got to really, you know, be serious about it. And, you know, no dilly-dallying. You can say that for another time after the workout during the cool down. But, yeah, I mean, that's the key to getting better. Workouts are big and crucial for any part of training. So I think just understanding when it's time to hold off on horseplay and making jokes, and understanding when you have to focus and be in that moment. Yeah, that's what I'd say, just in terms of managing when to horse around and when not to. It's kind of, you know, I think that's the most important thing with being able to do that.
Yeah, the jokes can wait. That's a quote. But yeah, as they say with a lot of stuff in life, there's a time and place.
Right.
And so, yeah, you seem to be doing really, really well with understanding the situation there, time and a place. Yeah, so something, let's just talk a little bit still about training. What's your favorite workout or type of workout that you feel like you enjoy, but also feel like you get a lot out of?
I'd say I really enjoy doing 400 repeats. Some people might not like that one, but I think for me, it's like that's a good in between of like, all right, I'm kind of sprinting, but I'm also kind of doing, you know, if you're doing a bunch of them, I'm kind of doing some distance stuff. You know, not saying you're doing 4 of them at, you know, 54 seconds. You'd be sprinting that. But if you're doing, you know, 10, 15 of them, it's like a good in between of kind of sprinting a little bit, and then also makes you feel like you're doing some LT stuff in a way, and longer stuff. And, you know, whether it's a minute rest or 2 minutes rest, whatever it is, I just feel like 400 repeats are, you know, I think that's a good workout. And it's also, I don't think it's, I mean, obviously depending on the pace, but I feel like whenever I do 400 repeats, it's just like, all right, you know, that last rep was a 59 if I'm doing them at mile pace. And it's like, you know, that one was tough, but it's like, you know, give me 5 more and I'll be okay. Like, I don't know. I just feel like that it's a good one. It's a hard one, but it's like nothing where it's like, oh, I'm dying. Like, I just did 400s at 52, 53 seconds, you know?
Yeah, just one lap.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about racing. We talked about this a minute or two ago with, you know, locking in with the race, but just kind of maybe more specific with not necessarily locking in, but just kind of routine Do you have like a go-to meal the night before? You know, everybody's got their thing.
Yeah, actually, I don't. I really
don't?
don't.
You just-
No.
Is
Yeah,
there anything? Is there anything you avoid though, like the night before or the day before?
Yeah, the thing with me, I'm not super big on the eating part. I'm not sure if that's something negative or positive. I just feel like as long as the engine's burning, you could kind of eat whatever in terms of running. But obviously, the night before, I feel like I don't want to be eating any junk foods.
Sure.
Or maybe even 2 nights before. I mean, I'm sure I've snagged a cupcake in my mouth or just did something like that a few times, but. Usually it's just like, all right, just something that I don't really look at the ingredients, but if it's clear to me that that's a dessert, I'm not going to have it the night before. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if it's like, if it's some greasy hot dog or something and it's like the night before, I might be like, but it's not like I'm going to compare that to the cupcake. I don't know why, even though the hot dog's probably not the best idea either. But I usually try and eat healthy that night before.
Sure.
So whether it's, some chicken and rice and vegetables or like, spaghetti, even though it's probably good to carb load 2 nights before, 3 nights before, I don't know, but just as long as it's not clear to you that it's like, man, that's a cookie cake right there, like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
You ain't going to the dessert aisle,
right?
And then how about like day of, like, do you have like a specific breakfast, like the closer you get to that race, or are you still just pretty similar to the day before, just kind of avoid the obvious bad stuff?
Yeah, I'd say, I kind of wish I had like, maybe a consistent breakfast or lunch, but it's like, there might be a meet where we're at a hotel and they have, waffles and eggs, and there might be a meet where we're not at a hotel and it's like, well, what do I make? And I just make some cereal or oatmeal. So I don't really have like a consistent go-to meal, but definitely kind of what you said and going back to what I just said, I'm not going to be eating, the Denny's, all-star meal with freaking sausage, gravy and Kit Kats on top, whatever they put on there, But just trying to keep it clean in terms of how it looks and nothing too crazy.
Yeah, you're not eating a box of donuts and washing it down with some Mountain Dew.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, though, that's good. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to find out what works, but it's also nice if you're one of those guys that can just kind of do whatever. That's fun. So I pulled some of this stuff off of our MDE website. Shout out to Murga for beefing that up. But your go-to, it says your go-to song, Sweater Weather.
Love that
how
one.
did that come to be your go-to pre-race song?
I don't know. I think that one's just like, it just sits so well in your head, It doesn't even have to be before the race. Like, you can be before a workout. I'm bumping that in the car, even if it's on the way to Washburn at 6:20 in the morning. Like, that'll get me going. That wakes up the body, just the tune of it and everything. I don't know. I mean, I just like it. It's a good one.
No, it's a good song. And honestly, because when Murga was doing all that, we were sitting there at the house, and me, him, and Clayton were kind of like going through. Murga was having us guess which song was which, and we didn't honestly guess that was yours. But anyway, after that, I'm listening to everybody's pre-race. I'm like curious, and that one with yours, I'm like, I never thought about that. But that like music, the first like 10, 15 seconds, it really just kind of switch your mind there.
You guys
are
are bumping on the TV or what?
Yeah,
I love that.
I'm like, okay, Swanny.
It's good. It's just like
I mean,
mindset
I'm not gonna
shifts.
mention any names, but there's some people on our team. I looked up their song and I'm just like, what? But hey, if it works for them, like everybody on our team's good. So hey, I mean, I get some flack with my song, and that's okay.
Right.
But yeah, Sweater Weather. I was like, okay, Swanny, like that'll get you in the mood.
Get you right for sure.
Yeah. All right. So another thing I want to talk about is shoes. What's kind of your go-to trainer? I know you haven't always put a lot of thought into that. You just kind of do whatever. But what's your go-to right now?
Yeah. No, it's funny you say that. I mean, to answer the question off the top of my head, I like the Vomeros right now. I know those just came out, those newer ones, and
Vomero 18.
Yeah, those I've been liking those a lot. I have 3 pairs. I'm just going through them, and I like them for easy runs and just like long runs, whatever. I mean, I don't know if I'll rip some speed stuff in those.
Probably not.
But no, it's funny because like I came to the team and I don't know much about shoes. I just like, I mean, I don't know. I went to college. I got the same pair of I think they were some sort of Adidas shoe. We were in Adidas school, so I just always wore those, and I haven't joined the team, and I kept wearing the same shoe. And some of the guys are like, you can go get shoes at TC Running. I started doing that, and I think I make some of the guys mad because I go in there and I'm like, what's the difference from this shoe and this shoe? And they're like trying to explain to me, and it's like, well, they're basically saying in a nice way, it's it's the same shoe, just a different brand. But I'm like, well, which one will make me faster for this race and this one? And, I'm probably, annoying everyone in the back. And it's just, I don't know. I've always been I haven't done much research on shoes. And, even with those carbon shoes, I'm like, well, if I run a road race here, like, should I use this one or this one or this one? Or like, you know what I mean? I don't know. But, yeah, I'd say the Vomeros I've been rocking.
Big Vomero guy.
Yeah, those are pretty nice. So I love those. But, yeah, kind of like what I just said, I'm not the most educated when it comes to shoes. I just put something on that's comfy and I'll run and feel it out.
Yeah, as long as you're getting them from TC Running, that's all that matters. Right?
Right.
Shout out TC Running up here in Minnesota and online for those watching afar. Quick plug there. Yeah, I remember helping you your first day. You're like, what do you think about this shoe? I'm like, well, does it feel good to you? Like, at the end of the day, it's like, how does it feel? There's so many good shoes out there. But yeah, the Vomero 18 that shoe is doing really well. We've kind of been struggling to keep it in stock because we're selling so many, not because we aren't good at inventory.
I think I was looking at the UFOs and Hoka slides once. I'm like, man, I'm wondering which one, like, would it be dumb if I asked, like, which one will I recover quicker in? But I'm like, which ones are comfier? And then they're like, well, they're kind of, this one does this one does this. And I'm like, well, if you had both of them, like, what would you prefer?
Yeah.
Probably with these ones. And I'm like, why? And then, I'm like, all right, we'll go with those then.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I prefer the UFOs. What would you get?
I got the UFOs.
Oh, yeah.
UFOs are more comfortable. I'd say the UFOs are pretty cool. I don't know. It's a hard comparison, but the UFOs might have a little edge.
Yeah. Oh, they're nice. Yeah. So, recently, just within the last few weeks, you ran 341 in the 1500. Popped a big one down there in Ames. That was a good race. I mean, I was unfortunately wasn't able to be there. I was supposed to race, but something came up. But just looking at the splits, talking to my brother Silas, he was in that race. He said you ran a really good race, tough. And so how'd that feel? I mean, because that was a good PR, and I know you were looking to run a good one, and then you actually did. How'd that feel?
Yeah, it felt pretty cool. It was like my first one in a year coming from college, and I didn't really know how I would do, especially, I drove 3 hours there and then kind of got out of the car, warmed up. I think we had like 20, 30 minutes to chill when we got there and then warmed up and then right into the race, which for some people that might not be the best thing. But for me, I feel like it worked out fine because I didn't think of the race too much. I was just locked in on driving there and there's not much time to think, So I feel like that's a good thing sometimes when you could just zone out of stuff like that. And yeah, I ran that race. I wasn't sure. I mean, time-wise, I definitely wanted a PR. My PR was 346. I mean, if you're going off my mile from Boston, I think on my IAAF or World Athletics, it was like a 345 because that was my split. Went through 1500 when I ran 401, but
still a big PR regardless.
Yeah, still 4 or 5 seconds. So I mean, I wasn't surprised with it because I knew I was in shape to do that. Mm-hmm. But just the reality of it, like seeing I ran 341, I was like, wow, that's really awesome. And I realized that's a pretty good time. Wouldn't say it's an elite time by any means, especially at the professional level, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. And I was pretty stoked to see that, and it just gets me more excited for trying to get under that 340 mark now. So the race played out well, and there were some really Silas was in there, and Festus Legat was in there, Christian Noble. There was a few other guys in there, some collegiates who are really good. Field. Yeah, it's a good field. So I didn't have much expectation other than like, all right, hey, I'm fit and I think I can run pretty good. So I'll take a 341 for sure.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, and the season's still got a lot left. So looking forward to the rest of the season. What do we got on the calendar for you?
Yeah, so I have the Portland Track Fest, I think it's called, in 2 weeks, and I'll be doing the 1500 there again.
Oh yeah.
So hopefully I could crack under 340. I think that'll be my goal. That'd be really nice.
Sub 340 in the electric forest,
right?
As they call it.
Exactly. That'd be a great goal. And then I think we come back, and I think it's like 2 or 3 days later. We got the
3 days.
Mini Apple Night of Miles, man. Like, it's gonna be rough with that sleep wise. I think our flight coming back from Portland's like pretty late. We get back like 11 something p.m. So it'll be that next day to kind of recover, and then the day after that we race the Mini Apple. Okay. Oh my gosh. But and then I think, I mean, depending how I do, obviously, I feel like the way everyone looks at the season is like everyone's trying to make like USAs, and if you can't do that, then I guess you go from there and maybe go rip some road miles or something. But I guess, I don't know, I'm just gauging it with Coach Lundo. Like I kind of take it like a meet or two at a time, see how I do, talk about it, and then we kind of go from there. But I pretty much only know that I'm doing this Portland one and then the Mini Apple, and then we'll go from there. But I'm definitely hoping to race. You know, we got a long season, so I'm hoping to race more. And
Oh yeah.
everyone's goal is to make USAs. Hopefully that can, you know, become
Yeah.
a thing. But if not, then we'll go do some road races or whatnot. So
Yeah, plenty of opportunities. Yeah, so something I do in every interview, and I wanted to obviously keep that with this, is I like to talk about like advice to newer runners, but especially kind of I think with like the younger generation. But this could work for anybody that's getting new into running or not, very good at running. Just kind of your go-to advice.
yeah, I think whether your goal is to being a new runner, maybe you don't have much goals or expectations. Maybe maybe you're getting into running and you're like, I want to train for this marathon, or I want to make the boys high school varsity team. I think the biggest thing you could do is have fun with it. As corny as that is and easy to say, it's like people read into stuff too much where they think like, all right, well, I need to make the varsity team, I have to run this time, or I need to run this for, grandma's marathon, like this is my goal. And it's good to have goals, but if you don't have goals, I think it's okay. And I think the biggest thing, goals or not, is to have fun with it. I mean, I have big goals right now. I'm sure Titus does too. And the best thing you can do is just like knowing you're training hard and being dedicated to what you're doing. Just have fun and like live in the moment and enjoy the process. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Like, I need to go run these times for practice. I need to go do this and this workout. Especially if you're if you're new into running, it's not, I don't think, I just think it takes many years to kind of be consistent with certain workouts and have these, if you have really high expectations, you might not get there right away if you're new to running. So I think just having fun and enjoying it, because it's running. I mean, what sport can you just step outside and be like, all right, Mom, I'll be back for dinner. You go run a few miles and come back in. She tells you to go shower. You come back, you eat dinner. Like, she doesn't even have to come get you to practice. You can run wherever you want. I think that's the thing with our sport. You can just go out, run wherever you want. And I think that's fun. If it's not fun for you to go run through this woods, then I don't know what to tell you, as long as you're not getting poison ivy. But I think it's fun to go run up this mountain that I've never seen before. And, knowing I got a nice run in, got a little bit of aerobic benefits in, and getting better toward my goals. And yeah, I just think have fun with it. Don't put too much pressure. Once again, I can't emphasize that enough, because when you have too much pressure, it's just, the expectations are just over the roof sometimes. You put a lot of stress on yourself, and your body doesn't need that when it's already trying to recover. And yeah, so have fun with it.
Oh yeah, that's great advice. Gotta have fun, and like you said, you just step out the door. I mean, this sport's great. I mean, I'm not gonna go into it too much right now, but I was talking to our head coach this morning. I'm a high school coach, and talking to him, and we were talking about that, like just kind of a lot of different stuff. But like running, like you don't have to pay that much, like compared to other sports. You just you go buy a pair of shoes, and then that's all you need, and then those will last you for honestly a good bit. You just run. You step out your door and run, and like it's a lifelong sport. Like, yeah, it's so fun, and there's so many ways to do it. But yeah, I want to echo, no, don't put too much pressure on yourself. I think that's great advice, and I kind of personally got caught up in that myself last year, and I wasn't running as good. It's like you put pressure on yourself to run better, and you end up running worse. It's like, so just enjoy it, have fun, go out there and compete,
Right.
And good things will happen. So yeah, that's pretty good stuff. So I think we covered everything I wanted to cover. I mean, anything you feel like we need to mention or give a plug?
I'm not sure. I think you did great. I appreciate you having me here. Obviously, shout out to the lawn, the Winter's Lawn Maintenance, and all of our sponsors at MDE. And
Oh yeah.
Thanks for having me, Titus. I enjoyed it.
Yes,
Make
sir.
Make sure you subscribe. If you're not subscribing, we're coming for you.
Yeah, for real. All right, thanks, Swanny.
Yes, sir. Thank you, man.
All right.